Okay, we'll call the policy committee to order. And the first item is the Pledge of Allegiance. Everyone please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm sorry to trouble you, but they want me to start. Okay, the second item on the agenda tonight is the approval of the October 20th minutes.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Item number 3 is policies for first reading. And the first one that we have is the staff dress code, policy EBA. It hasn't been reviewed since January 9th, 2014. Matt? Are you interested in this policy?
I am. I remember that I asked for this to be reviewed, as everyone knows. This is a policy that I remember bringing or talking about one of my first years on the board. I had issues with it then, and I still have issues with it now. And a couple things that I have issues with is I think it's too restrictive. I will first start by saying that I looked around various school districts in our area. I looked at some of the cities in New Hampshire and what their policies were on dress code. And what I found was that Portsmouth, Dover, Exeter, Somersworth, Concord, Nashua, Northwood, and Lebanon all do not have a dress code for staff. There is no policy on dress code in any of those towns. Keene and Laconia have a very small dress code policy. It is the same as ours up to where it says A, B, C, D. So everything from that and above is what Keene and Laconia have. Manchester is longer than ours, so much more restrictive than ours. So Rochester and Manchester both have very restrictive dress codes. And by restrictive, I mean many times, most of our buildings, if not all of them, are made of brick. And in May and June, and then in September, it just absorbs heat and does not give away heat. So when it's hot and when it's humid, and there's no air conditioning in any other buildings, it gets hot and it gets miserable. And students can wear shorts and t-shirts and whatnot. And I'm not suggesting that staff wear t-shirts and shorts all the time, but when it gets 90 degrees, 95 degrees, and in some cases close to 100, I've been a teacher long enough to know that it does get that hot. It is absolutely miserable, sitting in a classroom with no air circulation, and it is just miserably hot. And according to our dress code, we all have to sit in pants, long pants, and collared shirts. Can't wear any sort of a t-shirt or anything lighter than a jersey, like a golf shirt or something like that. Now, a couple things that I want to point out too is that there's no exception for a t-shirt for your school. So if I remember when we first brought this up, I was wearing at this school board meeting a t-shirt from Gonick School. My kids at the time went to Gonick School. I was wearing a Gonick t-shirt, and that would have been barred according to this policy by any staff at Gonick School. A teacher at Spalding would not be allowed to wear a Spalding t-shirt, and so on and so forth. You couldn't wear a college t-shirt, so if you want to try to be a model, to encourage kids to go to college and whatnot, but wearing a college t-shirt, can't wear that either. And one of the things I find interesting too is every year the schools put out an order for Collins Sports to buy stuff from their schools, and t-shirts are always on that list, and they can't wear it at school. So at the very least, I think there needs to be a lightening of the policy, and I think, I don't necessarily think we should go down the route of Portsmouth, Dover, Exeter, and whatnot and have no policy, but I think I would like to see the last two paragraphs eliminated off the policy. I think that just restricts it too much, and I know the staff, I've happened to talk to a few over the years, many years, the last 10 years or so, and I know many would probably appreciate this. Let's see, was there anything else I wanted to add? And I think one of the points I made back in 2014 when we first reviewed this is that we have a principal in every building. We have a supervisor in every building. And if someone shows up to school or up to work with inappropriate clothing, then it's their job to tell their staff that they're wearing inappropriate clothing or what have you, and tell them to, next time, dress appropriately. Or address it with their staff before it gets 90 degrees and what have you, and tell them that they need to follow these specific rules in their building. It's what we pay our administrators for, and I think that it's time to get into the 2020s here and realize that this policy, our old policy, was probably first written or probably first modeled after a policy written well before 2000. So, I welcome hearing what everyone has to say.
Karen?
I actually like the way it's written. Do you have any, did you by chance bring any of the other ones that you would, so basically it just has exactly the two
Yeah.
comments on the top?
I have Keene, somewhere I have Keene and Laconia.
There's Keene.
Somewhere. Keene.
So while you're getting that, I like the two comments. I understand the t-shirts and the shorts when it gets hot. My concern is we're in schools when schools get 100 degrees. That should be something that we address without this dress code policy. But I do think that we could say, when temperatures get high, it's the discretion of the building principal to allow shorts and t-shirts. My concern is I don't want to walk into a building in November and allow teachers to be wearing just random t-shirts and shorts. So if we're going to allow it because the weather's hot, I think we write the policy to reflect that. But I think for most cases, a polo shirt or normally cotton, I don't know, I'm not a male, so I'm not saying that they're not appropriate. But I would say for the most part, I like that we dress to a high standard. But again, if we want to address it when it's the hot weather, I understand wearing, or if they're wearing a school outfit, if they're wearing a school shirt like Jean Fridays or whatever, we could change the last sentence to say the principal may alter the dress code for special occasions. Instead of saying no more, we could just delete no more than once per month. You know what I mean? Like we could let them do it every Friday or whatever. But for the most part, I think dressing professionally shows our kids and role models to our kids what they should be wearing when they get their jobs.
Anyone else, Sarah?
I can see both points of view, especially with the hotter weather at the beginning and the end of the year. It's outside of summer school. The only, with the comment about up to building principals to talk to staff about their dress code, it's subjective when you eliminate language, it becomes subjective. If they have a policy where it clearly states that they have a reference point why what they're wearing isn't acceptable, it's a lot easier when they have a policy to refer back to. Otherwise, it can be subjective.
So, at work, we updated our dress code policy to be a little more relaxed. But we had to still put some guidelines, because if you call someone on, for instance, yoga pants and not wearing I think the correct word, it's a tunic, or whatever, the longer shirt to cover your backside, had to be added, because when we would go to an employee and say, you can't wear that, they're like, well, there's nothing saying I can't. Well, you gotta cover that now. So that's why I can see a need for more guidance, because it supports the managerial efforts of our principals. We know they can manage very well, but it's to support them. So we do have, everyone has an opinion, and when you deal with employees, you have to hear their opinions too, but we need some guidance to be fair. And it helps them know what not to do. I don't think flip-flops are appropriate, and I think that's a safety issue, in my opinion. also professionals. But I do side more on personally conservative. I think, yes, we have to be more relaxed in certain areas, but I think we still have to provide some guidance.
Yeah, so,
You can ask.
I don't know, does anyone else want to talk first? I just want to point out what I am wearing right now does not meet dress code for Rochester School District. I'm wearing a t-shirt, and it says specifically I'm not allowed to wear a t-shirt.
But what's over your t-shirt?
Doesn't matter, it doesn't say, it says no t-shirts.
Okay, but can you
So-
tell me what's over your t-shirt?
It's a sweatshirt. So, I mean, I'm wearing khakis, which is fine.
Which is acceptable.
But
But I'm
if you
wearing a
keep that,
t-shirt.
if you keep that sweatshirt on,
You're fine.
you're fine. Correct.
Correct.
Right.
So that is an appropriate outfit.
According to this policy, it does not meet the dress code.
No, but it-
Not the shirt, so.
So you're telling me that the males or females can't wear an undershirt at school, according to our policy? Come on,
it's not.
So if I get hot, may I?
come on.
Okay.
So if I get hot and I need to remove this, and you all know school buildings, heating systems are not 100% reliable like like a bank, for example. So today, my classroom was probably about 60 degrees all day. Sometimes it's about 78 degrees. So if I need to take this off, I can't, because the dress code says I can't. And the heating system, even in Oyster River, which is a 15-year-old building, is not exactly reliable every day. Sometimes it's hot, sometimes it's cold.
So,
Go ahead.
so that's where, I don't think we should remove those two paragraphs, but I think we can alter them in a way to be a little more relaxed, but removing them, I think it sets us up for some issues in the school.
It's even tough when you have policies and things are written out for an administrator to be the fashion police every day. You know, that puts a lot on an administrator. I work with a lot of young women, and we have a dress code, and they break it every day. Somebody is breaking that dress code every day, and we can't afford to send them home. It's really a no-win situation. Yes, Kim?
I also think that there's a difference when I look at t-shirts versus school-approved shirts, you know what I mean, or a college shirt. So I think when you open it up to say t-shirts are allowed, you know what I mean, you then can't police it. But I honestly think that our staff and our principals and our building administrators we put them there for a reason. They're very responsible adults. They're not gonna go and call somebody out for wearing a potentially Keene State t-shirt because somebody got hot in their classroom because of the temperature. I think they're gonna use their discretion. But if a staff member is coming in every day of the week with a different t-shirt that's got rips or holes, I just think we have to just account that we put really good building administrators in our building for a reason. And I think we put the parameters there, but they also know that, you know, if it's college week and you're wearing a new college shirt every day to promote that, I would think that's good role modeling, and I think that's appropriate. So put the wording in there to say it's appropriate, you know, when building administrators feel it's appropriate, or what kind of t-shirts are acceptable. School design t-shirts, college t-shirts, you know, be more specific. But if you're less specific, you're taking the power away from the staff. Matt's got his hand.
Matt?
Actually, I prefer this to Christine. I don't know if there's on the district level, you know, at the end of the day, we're making a policy, but we're not the ones managing it.
Yeah.
Is there any input from the administration that to provide that, you know, we would recommend, maybe we'd allow this, so we would say this is okay, but we need some help with the other?
I think some of the recommendations that people came up with were wonderful. Like, we could say the principal may alter the dress code for special occasions, weather, and assemblies, pep rally. I mean, you know, if we want to do and I think special occasions and weather. Special occasions is like holidays, pep rallies, we could do that.
Extreme heat or?
Yeah, so special occasions
Uncomfortable
and weather.
Yeah.
We
Special occasion, I mean, do we want something that we need to clarify in terms of, it's boiling in my classroom, so I want to go down to a t-shirt, but it's
Yeah, and
cool
weather.
in the other?
I think we could cross out not more than once per year, per
Yeah.
month, like we
Per
could get
month.
rid of that.
discretion of the principal.
And then when I look through the list, it seems like a concern you had was the t-shirts. So in front of that, we could say, like Rochester School District t-shirts, academic t-shirts. I don't know if you feel strongly about the certain type of t-shirt.
You don't have to speak.
Yes.
I guess one of the things, I think I actually agree with most of you on sweatsuits, yoga pants, tops without appropriate coverage, tank tops, flip-flops. But I think I don't agree with the restriction on shorts and jeans and t-shirts. Now, appropriate t-shirts, I don't know how we can delineate what's an appropriate or inappropriate. But if I'm wearing just a plain like Gap t-shirt or a t-shirt with nothing on it, just a plain gray t-shirt with a pocket maybe, I don't see what's wrong with that, to be honest. One thing I didn't add was Oyster River has a policy that's one sentence. It just says that the expectation that Oyster River School District staff appearance and/or dress shall be professional in accordance with their job assignment and cognizant of OSHA standards. But, you know, the other things where it's delineated, you know, what's appropriate, blah, 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 you know, A, B, C, D, dress in appropriate manner, da, da, da. But I think, you know, the days of teachers wearing shirts and ties among men, I don't remember a single teacher that I work with wearing a shirt and tie this year. And that was put in here specifically. I remember Mike Hopkins, that was sort of his thing. We wanted to have teachers wearing shirts and ties, the males anyway, and that was his thing. But I think that was years ago. And I respect Mike, but I think that somehow we can loosen the restrictions, t-shirts, school t-shirts, appropriate t-shirts, clean t-shirt, however we want to say it. I don't know what you all agree or
Maybe
disagree with
school-related.
jeans, or shorts on shorts on hot days. Because I don't think people should be wearing flip-flops. Teachers in my school wear them, and I can't stand it when I see teachers doing that.
So I work in a school building. Our teachers do not wear, most of them do not wear shirts and ties, but they still follow a dress code that would not have t-shirts and stuff. So I think there is a fine line. I think it was Matt that mentioned, can we get a feel for our admin to see what our admin think of this policy and whether they have any, again, I think it was Matt that said it. I'd like to see what our admin thinks because they're the ones that are going to be having to enforce this. What are their opinions on, I'm assuming Matt's just mentioning blue jeans, shorts, and t-shirts. So is there a way, this first reading, I don't know if we want to table it, see what our admins say that are going to have to enforce this policy and get their input to see maybe how we move forward with that? Would that be something that the board would agree to?
I'd be happy with that, but I'd also ask some, maybe some staff from each building or a handful of buildings.
I say building administrators because they're the ones that are going to have to uphold the policy. So I would say they would be the ones that I would be concerned with because if they have to pull somebody in, I would think that, and I think they want to have a level of.
How much support do they want?
Right, and I think, for them having to, what their building looks like, I think it'd be good for them because I think they're the ones that we put in as leaders. So that's why I said building administrator. And by the way, you'd have 8 elementary, a middle school, I mean, you'd be getting 12 different opinions, so.
Well, they can always ask their staff if they want.
And they can also get a feel for their staff.
But I'd be fine with that.
Yeah, would we want to table this until we get, so I'm gonna make a motion to table GBEBA for next month until we get feedback from our administrators.
Second.
I have a hand.
I just was not debatable.
I'm not on the committee, but,
So, still speaking.
question.
Will it affect whether we table it or not?
We
Is
are,
it about table?
No, it's motion to table then.
Yeah,
It's not, yeah. Not table.
non-debatable, so all those in favor of tabling it for a month?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, can I ask a procedural question?
Sure.
If this is only first reading anyway,
Right. We could
so
have
if we
just,
table it, is it gonna be back on first reading next month?
yeah,
Okay.
it's still
Or we'll have
first
to
reading.
move it to first
Until
reading.
we move it to the board for first reading.
Well,
it's-
second reading.
It stays.
So for clarification, I'm gonna gather feedback from admin, and I'll revise and noted the concerns are blue jeans, t-shirts, shorts, and weather.
And any other reasons why, whether it's weather or college week or.
It says it weather.
They may think of some things we haven't,
Yeah.
where the staff, you know, they may already have a relaxed attitude towards some event or something.
Steve's hats, is that included?
Hats?
Steve's got hats?
I think if we have to look at
What do
his
you do
hair,
with
we can
hats?
keep the hat. If it's a choice of looking at his hair or keeping the
I
hat.
don't think I've ever seen a teacher wear a hat in school.
I have.
Only on special days, it's student council,
Hat day.
hat day, staff day, I don't, but some staff do on
Crazy
those,
hair day, maybe. We'll see hats.
but typically no.
All right, let's move on to the next first reading policy of JLCDA, medical treatment, parent and guardian consent, which is new.
And what comes with that is the consent form. So just to talk a little bit about it, the new House Bill 1244 that's been passed into law requires a child's parent or legal guardian to provide explicit written consent for any medical or dental treatment provided in a school setting, school-based oral health programs.
This is the form that goes with it, that
Yep.
these would go out when? Beginning of school year or as items came up?
Once this is approved, it would go out, and parents would sign off on it. On the bottom, it says that it remains in effect until the student transfers to another school district, graduates, or they indicate in writing that they wish to rescind this consent. So the law passed, so right now we would be required to implement it once we passed it, and then as new students come in, they would do it, but we wouldn't do it every single year.
Karen?
Is there a different form for flu shots and the COVID vaccines that they had to sign?
This is for general.
Yeah. Just curious. Thank you.
Anyone else have anything?
So I will make a motion to move JLCDA to the board for first reading.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed?
So we already went over the consent form. So I'm gonna make a motion to move JLCDA-R to the full board for first reading.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Now we have policies for second reading, policy KBB. Title I Parent Involvement Policy, this will be withdrawn and replaced with policy KB. Title I Family and Community Engagement, which is new.
Just replaced, yeah.
So
Yes?
I know that there was some Title I meetings in the school. Do we know if they're going to be planned on Thursday? Just because the board's not able to go to them if they're on the same nights as a meeting, is there any way that whoever's making those meetings could look at those dates so that if school board members wanted to go to those, they would have the option? I understand time, you know, I mean, it may not happen, but I mean, I would like to have gone, but unfortunately, we had a meeting.
Yeah, that's always difficult, you know, I've suffered through many band concerts that were done on Thursday nights that I had to miss.
Yeah, so I mean, just so that they're aware of it, if
Yeah.
they have to make it on a Thursday night, I think it's completely understandable, but if they would just be aware that some board members may want to be able to go to them, and if they could plan it on a different night if possible, that would be greatly appreciated.
Do you have any issues with the policy?
Nope.
I'll take a motion to,
Make a motion for policy KBB and policy KB to go to the board for second reading and adoption.
Second.
all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? And then we have policy EHAB, data governance and security with minor revisions.
Make a motion to go to the board for second reading adoption, policy EHAB, data governance and security.
Second.
All
What were
those-
the,
Yep, go
what were
ahead.
the minor changes?
It was from last month. I need to fix.
Yeah, they're in the
The,
backup.
yeah, the
last month.
superintendent and CTO shall report, so it's all about reporting cybersecurity to the New Hampshire Cyber Integration Center of the Department. So it's about reporting it now, that it needs to be reported and reported to a specific,
And we're adding that because it's part of the law now?
because it's a requirement.
Okay, thank you.
RSA 31.
Yep.
Thank you.
All those in favor of moving
Well,
this
I
to the
think you
board?
did one.
Aye.
What?
I don't know the
Oh.
appropriate time, I'm not on the committee, so I
Right.
don't know the appropriate time to speak. Is this,
We're about to vote, so
okay.
what do you want to
Um,
say?
I'm just curious about paragraph A, where it says may disclose only in limited circumstances. Does anybody know what those circumstances might be? I mean, you wonder about the meaning of words. This is, to me, is a major word that
Can you point to
yeah, first paragraph, A, definition.
an inventory or confidential data?
The definitions of.
May disclose only in limited circumstances. I want to know what the limited circumstances that it could be disclosed in might be. For example. Because I think if you don't identify them as specific examples, then maybe somebody say, well, we can disclose that.
I think what it's referring to as confidential data includes, but it's not limited to, personally identifiable information regarding students and employees.
Where is it? I'm sorry.
The very first paragraph of the definitions, under A.
All right.
I'm concerned about disclosure in limited circumstances. I'd like to know what the limited circumstances are.
Fortunately, this is just in the definition, not like, it doesn't say the district may disclose them in certain circumstances, it just is a definition, but I think, my interpretation is is it FERPA? FERPA would trump this policy no matter what.
What
So
would
you
trump
can, FERPA is the Federal Education Records
Privacy.
Privacy Act.
Act.
So that basically says a school cannot disclose any personally identifiable information of a student to
Then we
anyone.
don't need any of this policy right here, right? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
I don't know. I think that the law probably requires us to have this, so that the staff has something to fall on. But what I was getting at is that this policy just sort of clarifies what we can and can't do. And that's just the definition part, so we have an idea exactly what that means. But as far as disclosing in limited circumstances, I would think that would be providing that information if there's a court order, or if there's maybe, federal
Shouldn't we put something
Requirements.
like that in there?
But I get what Sandy is saying. You're
Yeah.
saying, in your opinion, you think that what is, and what Ms. Keenes is saying is, can we get a definition on what limited circumstances there are? She makes a valid point, because I wouldn't think of the same things, because you mentioned one thing, and,
I think I said that.
right, so I'm saying, maybe we do need a definition on what limited circumstances would be, examples of them. She makes a good point.
And I think the legal implications are obvious. Obviously, you have to disclose that. But I'm worried about other circumstances that might take place that somebody decides, well, nobody will know if we just release this and whatever, and it's not a big deal if we release it, so. That's what I'm worried about.
Under F, under confidential and critical information, it does say they will collect, create, or store confidential information only when the superintendent or designee determines it is necessary and in accordance with applicable law. So
What
I
are you
think
reading here?
under F, it's confidential and critical
Okay.
information.
Mhm.
They'll provide access to confidential information to appropriately trained district employees and volunteers only when the district determines that such access is necessary for the performance of their duties. So I think that's the limited situations. The district will disclose confidential information only to authorized district contractors or agents who need access to the information to provide services to the district and who agree not to disclose the information to any other party except as allowed by law and authorized by the district. So I think that's the limited situations
I
that
think
we
it
are allowed.
handles most of it. I have another question though, on section B.
Yep.
Is there a central repository, or does each school keep their own confidential information?
Where are you at? I'm sorry. Section B?
Section B.
B.
B1
Is it
or,
a central repository, and is all that confidential information have to come to the superintendent's office, central office, or whatever? Or do you keep it in individual schools?
oh, the electronic information?
Yeah,
I'm
that's what
only
this-
reading what's here.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get a better clarification. So the district has obviously a student information system, which is Infinite Campus, and that has students' names and addresses, dates of birth, and phone numbers. And the teachers who can access that,
Health records and stuff like that?
not
too?
health records,
No.
no, only the nurses that can access health records.
And where do they keep that?
They would keep them locked up in their health file
In each individual school?
for that school, correct. So
Okay.
the high school would not have access to an elementary student because they're not a student with them.
Okay.
Any other?
No, that'll do it. I think it's
I have
loose,
probably a
but-
stupid, but under B, the data governance plan, the superintendent in consultation with the district CTO, Chief Technology Officer, I don't believe we have that position in our district anymore. Can you correct me if I'm wrong? Didn't we reorganize?
It was broken up into two positions. I was wondering that too, but between the two positions, they have to assume the responsibilities of a CTO. But it's just the name, the managers.
I would just say we should consult with the districts, what's their department called? So we're, say it again?
CIC.
With the district CIC department, so
But
that way it would
it's-
cover us.
It's not the CIC department because there's other employees that work in CIC that aren't responsible, so.
So whatever
I'm
the
gonna-
person that
I'm
would
gonna look up
replace,
Tricia
yeah.
Tor and Dawn's
Yeah.
technical title.
I would just say whatever it is, we should probably replace that, because right now we don't have a CTO.
It was restructured into two positions.
Yeah. I mean, while it's on the table, we might as well correct it.
Yeah, Christine, while you're reviewing it, I think there was note at one time, now this was, I believe, before the restructure, that either the assistant or the superintendent act as the CTO for a certain capacity, but that might have been during transition only, so
They're considered district administrators.
there we go.
Yeah,
But when it
CIC
says-
administrators.
Yeah, but when it says the superintendent in consultation with the CTO,
Can't be
he would
himself.
be in consultation with himself. Also, just one other thing while we're changing it, to be presented to the board by June 30th, 2019, should we change that year or delete that because we're past that date?
We can just say, I don't know, by June.
June 30th.
Well, we've
It
already
says-
created a data and privacy governance plan, right? So do we even need that sentence in there?
The last sentence of that first paragraph says the plan for presentation to the board no later than June 30th each year.
Right, so what my comment was is maybe we just delete the sentence that talks about June 30th, 2019.
I think that was the original,
That, when we had to do it, but now that we've done it, I don't think we need that wording in
How about we
there.
just say when required by law?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks, Sandy, I wouldn't have caught those.
So we still have some amendments, so we don't want to pass this on for second reading to the full board, correct?
So do you want a motion to table?
we already have a motion and a second for this to go to the full board, so we'd have to bring this to vote, which,
We would vote no. All right,
All those in favor of bringing this to the board for a second reading and adoption? Vote aye. All those opposed? Vote no.
Nay.
Nay.
No. So we're gonna hang on to this.
Yep, I'll make.
so I'll make a motion to table EHAB for next month to make the corrections that were talked about.
just point of order.
I don't think
Do
we need
we,
to
I don't
table
think we
it.
have to do a table, because it just now, we already turned it
No,
down.
it just
so
stays there?
Stays there.
It just stays
So-
there. If you table it, we gotta have a vote to bring it off the table, so.
Oh, all right.
It's not the correct,
I thought you had to table it so we
Table.
didn't move on.
No.
So, all right,
no,
so it just stays here.
Because there's more information right there.
yeah, it'll come back to us. Okay. That is the end of our policies for tonight. There's the 5-year plan that we,
I've already done.
5-year was looking, the district wasn't going to provide any input needed on the policy committee's 5-year plan.
which is pretty small.
So Christine, was there anything from department heads or anything? to add?
I shared that with Mr. Pusey, he's working with department heads.
Okay.
So we'll hold on.
He didn't have anything new to share at this time.
Perfect. So then, Ann, is there any changes to the top 3? Which is process of policies, training from NHSBA, keyword search on website of policies, which we did already prove is already done.
Right.
And FAQs on questions from public regarding policies, which I think that's a ongoing process, so I'd recommend as a committee member that we eliminate item 2.
Right.
And possibly moving up item 1 from the parking lot.
Why are we moving that up, Matt?
You're always trying to keep your top 3 focuses, so if the committee wanted to, then we just move it up from parking lot up. Even if or we don't think it needs to be, because there's a public comment every single time, so that's a
Right.
clarifying
It
conversation.
only got 1 vote, so I don't see it's a top 3 item.
Okay. So at this point, it would just be eliminating item 2 and setting this to, or still waiting for district input.
Right.
Okay.
Are you making that motion?
I'll make a motion to eliminate item 2 from the top 3 for policy's 5-year plan.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Yes.
I still think even if it was 1 vote, why wouldn't we move that one thing to the parking lot up to the,
Just point of order,
sorry,
good point. Look, maybe we should.
vote on this? Okay.
I don't have it in front of me.
Oh, right here. I have it. So these were the 3. We've already done that, so that's why it's eliminated.
It's just eliminating what we did.
So I'm moving 1 up, is that what we're doing?
No, not
we'll
yet,
talk
we're just
about that.
voting on eliminating 2.
We're
Oh,
gonna eliminate 2 first.
now I'm with it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Now you want to discuss moving something from the parking lot that got 1 vote without any plan.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about how we want parental involvement and community involvement, so, I mean, what do they say, 1 person really speaks for 10, so I don't know why, unless there's something else that's more important, I don't know why we wouldn't move it up there. I think community involvement is very important to our district. So I would say whether it's 1 vote or 10 votes, I mean, the other ones only really got 5 or 6 votes. It's not like everything got a huge amount of votes, so why wouldn't we move it up unless there was something I would say move it up, and then if there's something that we get from the district that we feel is more important, we can always change it, but I don't know why it would be in the parking lot if we have 3.
So just a procedural clarification, when we did the exercise, the committee determined the other ones had more value at that time. So the purpose is, it would move up naturally, that's our commitment to all the committees. It would be up to this committee to then, at some point, discuss if that item is even relevant anymore. Or how it will happen, like,
Well, that's my,
that would be an ongoing conversation after your 5-year plan is finalized.
I think something should take a top 3 place when there's a plan, when there's some action, when there's some direction. This has no direction.
Well,
Karen?
and I don't disagree with you, but right now we don't have anything else. So I would say that that discussion would be, we move it up, and then when we get the admin's information, we then discuss all 3 of them and say, is there, we may want to move 2 down to the parking lot. We may have 2 things that we think are more important. But
It's up to the committee. I'll call a vote on that. All those who'd like to move community involvement for policies into the main arena can vote aye, and all those who don't can vote no.
Nick?
No. I just think it's, well, we can discuss it when we get the department input. I just think that putting something there for sake of having 3 items is not a reason to put something there.
no, and I agree. I think community involvement is very important, so I don't think it should be there just because of 1 vote. I think it should be there because,
And
It
my,
should- it should
my
be
reasons
important.
for not moving
Yeah.
it up don't have anything to do with whether I think community involvement is important or not. It's not that, There's no direction for this statement. There's no, how do we do that? No one had an idea of something that we should be doing to involve the community with policies. It's just a statement with no direction. That's just my opinion. Anything else for 5-year?
I do have a question.
Yes.
You want to wait for district feedback before sending this final to 5-year?
Sure.
I just want to make sure, so,
Yeah, no, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It may be something that's related to one of the other committees that would be policy work. That could go as well. I mean, somebody on one of the other committees could say, or some department head could say, well, this is something that we should do as a district, but there's no policy about it. So, in fact, I think we had something come up at the last meeting.
I'll check back with him. When I spoke with him, he didn't have any new information at that time that needed to be added, but I'll go
Okay.
back one more time.
There's something we wanted to add to policy to consider, and I can't remember what it was.
There was under other.
It was under other?
Yeah, I remember what it was from the board meeting.
Okay. Do you want to tell us now?
It was the Chromebook policy for board
Okay.
replacement.
Okay, all right.
I do have that prepared for other.
Okay, great, all right. Okay, well, we'll move on to public comment. Is there anyone here who'd like to have something to say at public comment? No? No? Okay, then I'll close public comment. And we're on other.
oh, I thought everybody was looking at Sandy. I was like, did I miss something? Like,
No, I was looking
just
at
watching
Christine,
the-
saying she
she's
was
doing
gonna get
for the
something to present
computer,
for us.
for us for the computer.
So up here is the sample agreement that we have, which staff signed, but I'll go down because I think the question was about if it gets lost, stolen, or broken, and what that would mean, and that's this section right here.
This is just for staff?
This is the staff one.
isn't that almost that's the same one for the students though, right? Because that's the same fee for the students.
Because it's the same price for the Chromebook. There isn't an upgrade between a student or a teacher Chromebook.
Anyone have any questions?
This is for staff, correct?
Yes, this
So-
this one is just the staff usage agreement.
Would there be a similar one that we're going to use in the future for school board members?
So that was the request that was brought, after our discussion with Karen made, said it should come to policy for us to make one. So, that's where we are today.
So this is a sample for us to look at to
To-
make a,
Recommend what we want changed if this is something we're on.
okay.
Shane?
So I'm not sure if it would fall in, so this is the policy that we want to do for the Chromebooks, and my concern is that we don't have insurance on the Chromebooks. Would this fall under here for us to talk about making sure we have insurance, part of the policy for the Chromebooks?
I think it was that the deductible of the insurance is more than replacing the Chromebook.
I thought we didn't have
No,
insurance.
we don't. I have an email from Kyle that says
It's
we do
fine.
not have insurance. No, I have an
And I
email from
think-
Kyle that says we do not have insurance.
But
And I
that's
think
why-
that's the
That's
big
why,
thing.
But that's why.
Well, we don't have.
That's
Okay.
why.
Right, but I think what Shane's saying is at a board meeting, when we talked about the Chromebook issue, our chair said that we have insurance and that's why if it was damaged, it would be replaced. And then I emailed Kyle the next day to say, what kind of insurance do we have? Because I agree, I thought it was Primax and I was surprised that we don't have insurance on theft. And I have an email from the superintendent that says, we do not have. So I think it's, you know what I mean, like,
So-
one person said that we do have insurance and the other person said we don't. So just for clarity, from the email that I got from our superintendent, we do not have insurance on the Chromebooks.
Can we
Right, and
get-
the reason we don't is because it would cost more for
A deductible.
the
Understandable, yeah.
That would be a conversation for finance.
Okay.
If you're looking for where, I think that's what I was reading where you're trying to go. So we would have to request finance to have that conversation if for district-wide devices, I know some districts have coverage that is charged to the family to be in
I don't know if they have it or we don't, or
the, yeah, we don't have it currently now. If we want to explore it, that'd be a deferment to finance.
So so who's in charge of collecting the money? Because I guess my question is, of course, because everybody talks about it, some people are saying that they're not charged and other people are saying they are. So who's in charge of making sure they're collecting it? You know, a lost charging cord, some people are charged and some are not. Some people bring in their Chromebook because it's damaged and they're saying they're not getting charged. So can we find out, and I'm assuming you may not know this answer, can we find out who is responsible for making sure that bill goes out? And then does the money stay in the CIC department to get more equipment? Yeah, I mean.
Wouldn't that be finance?
The collection of it, or, so the finance committee would have that, would be where that answer would be discussed, or presented. Not necessarily as a
I
policy.
can send that to them. Who collects the money and where does it get
Allocated.
allocated
Yeah.
back into?
That's for that committee, but we are supposed to be deciding on creating a policy for, school board to sign an agreement.
I haven't seen it, so I assumed we weren't making that decision tonight. I assumed we were gonna get a copy of it and be able to read it.
Does this format seem to fit what we're looking for?
I would agree this format does fit. Obviously, we just need, now it's a change of language from employees to board members, in this case. But it outlines our responsibility and what the fees are if the device is damaged, stolen, or whatever the process is.
It doesn't really address like lost, I'm sorry.
Yes, you can speak.
Or stolen.
It's just, well, it says that you must have the device to turn in. You must have a device to turn in, and if you don't have it, then you will be financial obligation to the Rochester School Department, so it's covered there. So if someone lost their Chromebook or it was stolen, they're still responsible financially to the district. But as far as the dollar amounts, the dollar amount of 150 is for if it's damaged beyond repair. It doesn't address if it's lost.
Well, I think that's the cost of getting a new one, because if you can't fix it, you buy a new one.
But if it's lost, it's not technically destroyed, but it would be covered, I guess, on the third to last bullet.
I was gonna read the same thing as far as destroyed or damaged, but lost, it doesn't say lost Chromebook cost this much. So I think we may wanna tinker with the language, destroyed Chromebook or damaged Chromebook, whatever. But my question on the cost would be, what if, say, next year when we put out a bid, that the cost of replacing one is $200 and the policy says $150. So I think, I think whatever dollar amount is there should say replacement cost of like model or something like that. Because you're responsible, we're all responsible for these, and if we lose it, then we need to replace it. That's the same thing with a student contract, staff contract, so it should be the same for us.
I would assume if we know that we're coming in with a higher price, that somebody would authorize to change the policy. I like the fact that there's a price on there. My question is, are we as a board comfortable with charging a staff member $150 if their car is broken into and their Chromebook is stolen because of it?
They'll have insurance on their car that they can cover.
But it's not their Chromebook, so they wouldn't be able to. I tried, I called my insurance, it wasn't my Chromebook, so I couldn't use the insurance from my Chromebook. So, again, I mean, if your car's broken into and you're a responsible teacher and your Chromebook gets stolen and it's, I mean.
If a kid has that happen to a textbook, we still charge them.
I don't think we do.
Oh, yes, we do. Yeah.
I was gonna say, when I keep this in my car, if I leave this in my car, I will always cover it, hide it, put it somewhere where it's not seen. And I think that it's incumbent upon anybody, whether it's a staff person or whoever who has a school laptop or school property, to take measures to not make it visible, to entice people to break into your car to steal it. So I think, we are responsible no matter what. If we are responsible for a computer and it is whether it's stolen or lost, we're responsible for that computer. I am at my school, if my laptop is stolen, I gotta pay $800 for that because we have laptops, not Chromebooks. So, and if someone has if some districts have an Apple MacBook, I mean, yours does, that's even more. That's $1,200 plus. But the staff person's still responsible for it.
Yes.
Teachers don't have to take a Chromebook too, so say if you're uncomfortable with this agreement, a teacher could say, I opt not to have your Chromebook, I have my own device. So if they're uncomfortable signing for that and accepting that responsibility, they don't have to take it.
Shane.
So I got a couple things. So I don't feel comfortable charging anybody if something's stolen. And if it is proven after a police report's done that it was stolen, and then charging them, I don't feel comfortable with that. And the other thing on here, under one of the bullets, is the Rexton School Department reserves the right to monitor all activity on the device by the employee, yes. So I don't feel comfortable with our email has information that should not be accessed by IT department or Kyle or whoever. So that's another one I'm not comfortable about either, for us. I know this one's directed towards staff, and I understand staff, but for us, I think it should be a little different.
What about negligence, Shane? I mean, if I left this right on my front seat and it was stolen,
And the door will.
then I was negligent for leaving it on the front seat.
Yeah, you're negligent, but it's still, someone took property that wasn't theirs, and it's still gonna be charged. It'll still be, they stole something that's not yours, that's not theirs. They would still be charged, you could leave it on the hood of your car, and they still took it, they're still gonna be charged with that.
So, but you don't think that a teacher should be
No,
responsible
I'm not
for
saying that, I'm
negligence?
just telling you, it would still come back reported stolen, and if they came back that, yeah, they approved it, but I get it, but if a teacher has it locked in their car, and somebody breaks into their car, and then we're still gonna charge them $150, and the police report came back with, that they proved that it was stolen, and they have the person that stole it, how does that make us look?
I think that's common practice in the private sector, isn't it, Matt? Like if you have a laptop that's taken from your car, I mean, you're responsible for that in your job, aren't you?
I think my reference would not be equivalent to this.
I also think that when we mention putting it in the car and that they're negligent and you hide it, you put something over it, we have highly educated staff. I'm very proud of the staff that we have in our school. I don't think any teacher is putting it in the front seat visible and then leaving their car unlocked. So I just want to make sure when we're talking about potential reasons why a Chromebook could be gone, it's not just you know what I mean? It's not like I don't want to make it sound as though we're saying that they did something where they were just, you know what I mean, they left school, they ran into Hannaford to go get something and they locked their car and their car still got broken into, or they're at home and they have a house fire and their Chromebook's at their house. I mean, I think there's circumstances when I think we have to say, is it reasonable to charge that person? And I think, again, I think we're kind of going off differently because we're talking about a school board issued Chromebook. So I just think that that one also needs to be looked at. Maybe we put it on the agenda for the next month. But I think we have to look at that because I think when we talk about our staff and we say that we think that it's appropriate for other places, we're not talking about other places, we're talking about our district. And I think our staff are very intelligent enough to know that they're not going to put their Chromebook in a car and not lock it or not hide it and put a jacket over it. I think that they're responsible adults. So I'm talking about the 1% of staff member that, you know, have their house broken into or their car gets stolen, or, I mean, at that point, are we really saying that we want to charge them, or do we want to look at it on a base by base, you know, and then who makes that decision?
Right.
So I think we should bring this and table it back because I don't think this is,
So
not table it.
I think that if somebody, even a staff member reports a Chromebook stolen, and after a police report's done, and that they determine that yes, it was stolen, we shouldn't be charging $150. But if after that police report comes back undetermined, then yeah, unfortunately, we can charge them $150.
Yeah, I think it's very difficult when you have as many employees as we have to just say you're going to do these all on a case-by-case basis.
And then
You need a policy.
And then who makes that determination? Because it needs to be fair and equitable. So I agree with you, Ms. Grassi. You know what I mean? If I'm the one making that decision and I'm friends with Matt Bolio and he comes and tells me, you know what I mean, I left it and I drove over it and I was an idiot, you know what I mean? Am I going to charge my friend Matt? I think I think it's a bigger conversation because whoever makes that determination needs to make sure they're fair and equitable and they're not putting their personal relationships into it. So I think that would be a little bit of a concern.
And it's totally voluntary on the staff to be
Yeah.
responsible for this or not. When we sign this, they know they're responsible. They don't have to do it. This isn't something we require them to take. They could use their own computer, their own laptop, their own tablet, and insure it their own way. So it's a choice, and they sign this knowing ahead of time. So it's not mandatory. So I don't see anything wrong with our policy there.
Sandy has her hand raised.
Sandy.
Yeah, thank you. I would just like to say, when I came on the board in January, I was issued a Chromebook, and it was such a piece of crap. I mean, bent keys and all that sort of thing, that I said, thanks, but no thanks. I use my own device. So I don't know what condition that was in, and I don't know how old it was, but the one that I was offered in January was a piece of crap. I swear it was 10 or 15 years old, I don't know, or it had been beaten to hell. And I don't know But if you're gonna start charging, you gotta start making a system of where it's a fair charge. You can't say, well, to replace it with a brand new one is gonna be $200, so you owe us $200. That doesn't make any sense to me as a policy, but that's
Well,
just
that's what we do for
anecdotal
textbooks,
evidence.
though. In textbooks, we charge, the replacement cost is a new book. It's not,
Well, I understand that, but that's a
Not
whole
the
different
value.
thing than a mechanical advice that wears out in 3 years, they want you to change your vehicle.
well, I've
your-
had mine more
your
than
thing,
3
right?
years, and it's not wearing out, and it's fine. And I still think this value is $150, and I would be responsible for it if I had something happen to it. But
I don't think there's any equivalence between technology and a textbook at all whatsoever in a
Yes.
policy like
Can I
this.
point out that as we are moving further into the 21st century, more and more textbooks are on computers and not actually handheld.
That's fine, that's on the computer, so that's a different story.
So maybe add a depreciated value if your computer is, you know what I mean? Or are we turning in our Chromebooks after a set amount of time and reissuing a new one? How old are our Chromebooks? You know what I mean? So if that's the case and I'm being charged $150, how long do I get to get a new Chromebook every 2 years so that it's the same, you know what I mean? So,
I just look at it the way they look at textbooks. You replace it with the cost of a new machine. Even though this might be 3 or 4 years old, if I lose it, it's still working, it's in good condition. I'm going to have to get a new machine, not one that's 3 or 4 years old.
Well, fewer students, fewer teachers, more books.
So
more
just
Chromebooks.
for looking at a policy versus a replacement schedule, valid point, typically when you have falls like this, you'd have a replacement schedule on the side. That'd be a separate review, that'd be a CIC process. So looking at this as the policy in terms of, if I have a device, if I lose this device, damage this device, right now, as the policy is for students and faculty, that's what we would be looking to mirror it. So right now, we're talking about the board policy. If we want to look at all, the entire processes, this is a personnel contract, this isn't a policy, correct, Christine?
Correct, it's not a policy.
So this would not, this would be something that personnel would have to look at. We're looking at a policy for board members, and this is an example that we can mirror.
This is an
correct.
agreement.
An agreement, sorry, but we're asked if we want to create a policy for board members.
Or an agreement. It wouldn't be a policy, it would be
Thank
It'd
an
be an agreement, I
agreement.
think.
Words mean something?
but it's,
Words?
I just want to add, when you have a book, when you have a science book or whatever, there's a value to that. But when you're talking about a device that depreciates in value, like a car, you know what I mean? I have my car and I buy it brand new, and if I total it, it's you know what I mean? It's going to be a depreciated value each year, and that's kind of the same thing as a Chromebook. If I have, but it is, because if I have a Chromebook, if I have a personal Chromebook or a MacBook or a laptop, and I sell it brand new, I'm gonna get more value for it than when I try to sell it 5 years later. So
We're
what I'm,
talking replacement. You're not gonna replace it with a 3-year-old Chromebook. You're gonna replace it with a new one. that costs
right, I'm not gonna
different.
replace an old Chromebook that I have with a brand new one.
But we
There's a
are.
depreciated
But
value
you
to
will-
it.
But you will through our agreement. You will get a new one, and that's the cost of the new one.
It's a replacement cost.
I'm sorry, I thought my hand was raised, but apparently we're just all interrupting.
So, and just to clarify, we're using accounting statements such as depreciated value, which are, that's if you do accrual versus a cash basis budgeting. That's not, there's no net book value provided to us on these devices. It is a flat fee for the device. Just going with the factual stuff. So, again, we're not even talking about a policy anymore. We're just nitpicking certain items here. And we went from lost stolen to the cost and the net book value. I'll be really honest with you, if I was gonna make a motion today, it would be, that's our agreement for board members, and I'd be open for a discussion regarding proof of theft. And I would ask that would be carried over for staff as well. But that would be my thoughts. So if I could, I'll make that motion.
No, agree. I'll second it, if you motion, I'll second it.
That's your motion, that we follow that?
That we would follow that policy with future,
That
that we would
agreement.
have that crafted for us for future discussion regarding the only item is theft, which would be determined by police, and we have to now discuss what that would mean. Do we charge or not to charge? So I would say that's a future discussion, and then whatever we do, I'd recommend that we push, what word was that? Push that, or recommend that to be gone to personnel for the review for our staff and students.
So the agreement.
That was a long motion, huh?
Yeah, I'm trying to clean it up a little bit.
My motion is that we mirror this for the school board, for us to further discussion next month. That would probably be the easiest, then we can talk about that, right? Cool, so we'd have to get it wordsmith, and then we'd have it in front of us to digest, read, and make a discussion. Fair?
I think I understand what you said.
Thank you. Well, I took that about 6 or 7 times for
I
me to
tried to
do
get
that.
him to shorten it up a little bit.
Make sense? That's my motion. And we'll bring it for first reading, and we can discuss it then.
Well, it's not gonna be a policy though, right?
It's an agreement.
An
It's not
agreement.
policy.
I
Policy is
apologize, I
PE.
probably should have brought this up under instruction, since it's an instructional material for staff and students.
So
but
why don't we
because
hold my
We were talking
motion?
about board members.
And I'm going to ask that we defer this to the instruction committee. With the policy committee is just, my motion is this is not a policy.
Are you finished with your policy?
My motion is officially, this is not a policy.
Shane,
Do you second
Are
the
you-
motion?
are you seconding his?
It's not a policy, we're gonna talk about insurance, and then we'll do what I just said.
Referring it to. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? And then we have adjournment. Unless there's anything.
No, that's
other-
one
other-
motion. We move to adjourn.
Is there anything other than that?
Other,
Other?
That to death.
You motion to adjourn?
Then I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.